I hope this video will be of help to someone. Now, the Lord called me off my job on December the 29th. And needless to say, it really, it kind of rocked me because I wasn't expecting it so soon and in the way that it happened. Okay. Now, when that happened, I immediately began to get busy trying to figure things out. In my mind, I was getting ready to experience a drought. I began to think back to the time in Texas during my testing season, thinking, oh my goodness, I'm getting ready to experience a drought. It's going to be a dry season, so I need to store up, so to speak. All right. So I'm not telling anyone not to store up. Just listen further to what I'm saying. I'm not telling anyone not to prepare. But what I am saying is this: just follow along. Basically, because I felt as if I was getting ready to experience a drought, I allowed my thoughts to take me back to a period of what I'd gone through previously, even though, like I said before, there's another video I posted that this is not that. However, experiencing the trauma of the journey, I couldn't help myself. Okay. So as I'm preparing for this unknown drought, what I started to do, I started to take the words that God had previously given me and I tried to piece something together, hearing the go back and things like that. So I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I need to go back to the school where the Lord had me prior to going back to my job. So maybe I need to go back there. And also, I'm like, rent has to be paid where I'm living. So let me move back in with my friend and go back to help her with her cleaning business as well. So as I'm lining things up, I'm thinking about, if I clean with her and, go back to the school, then I'll be able to make ends meet, as well as being able to provide for myself while at her home and helping her out when it comes to rent and things like that. Okay. So then I realized one day as I began to sit here, I was like, you know what? I don't think this is what God is telling me to do. I was so busy being busy that I wasn't still. I wasn't resting in Him and listening to Him. All I was thinking was, I got to make this happen. I cannot allow myself to go through what I went through in a previous season. And lo and behold, you guys know, regardless of what we try to do, if it's the season that God says it is, if it's a season of drought or, of pruning, of harvest, or whatever the case may be, nothing we can do can stop it. All right. So this takes me back to Abraham in the Bible. And I think it is chapter 12. This is in Genesis chapter 12. And listen to this. It says, now there was a famine in the land, and Abram, this is before he was Abraham, Abram went down to Egypt to live there for a while because the famine was severe. As he was about to enter Egypt, he said to his wife Sarai, before she was Sarah, I know what a beautiful woman you are. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, this is his wife. Then they will kill me, but will let you live. Say you are my sister so that I will be treated well for your sake and my life will be spared because of you. When Abram came to Egypt, the Egyptians saw that Sarai was a very beautiful woman, just as he said. And when Pharaoh's officials saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh, and she was taken into his palace. He treated Abram well for her sake, and Abram acquired sheep and cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female servants, and camels. But the Lord inflicted serious diseases on Pharaoh and his household because of Abram's wife, Sarai. So Pharaoh summoned Abram. What have you done to me? He said. Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she is my sister so that I took her to be my wife? Now then, here is your wife. Take her and go. Then Pharaoh gave orders about Abram to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. So I'm going to jump down to chapter 13 just a little bit. Verse 1, it says, so Abram went up from Egypt to the Negev with his wife and everything he had, and Lot went with him. Abram had become very wealthy in livestock and in silver and gold. From the Negev, he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There, Abram called on the name of the Lord. So, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sitting in my bed and my back is hurting. Now, you can go back and read this, chapter 12, read a bit, just read the whole thing, 12 and 13. All right. So, this is what I wanted to say. You notice that I said initially that there was a famine in the land and Abram went down to Egypt. Okay. God never told Abram to go to Egypt. He took that upon himself. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was taking it upon myself to go down to Egypt. Now, listen to me closely, all right? I need you to listen with your spiritual ears, and because I'm not saying that going back to the school or going back to work with my sister in Christ in her cleaning business or going back to live with her was me going down. What I'm saying is sometimes spiritually, we don't recognize what we're doing because when God never tells us to move, we start acting on our own. We end up going down. We end up settling for something that God never told us to do. Yes, this is the way he led me up into elevation. However, he never told me to go back down. He never told me to settle, to go back to those places. But I started putting words together that he had previously given me, thinking this is what he means. But that's not what he said. Okay, so when I talk about going down, once again, it's not speaking down upon anyone. It's just showing you how we will start to take matters into our own hands because we think there is a famine in the land. God never told Abram to leave. Had he stayed right where he was, he wouldn't have put Pharaoh in the position that he did, or his wife. See, here's the stuff. And when I say settle, this is what happens here. And I hope you can recognize this, okay? I'm going to read some notes that I read off. So in Genesis 12, 1 through 20, when there was a famine in the land of Canaan, or between Bethel and Ai, where Abram set up his tent, he took it upon himself to go down to Egypt. When he went down, he began to compromise. And that's what we do a lot of times. When I say go down, we start compromising. Okay, he had Sarai lie about who she was. That was the first compromise. The second compromise, he was sneaky in his ways because he was lying. All right. And therefore, they had to hide their relationship because Pharaoh thought Sarai was his sister. He was treated well. So he was treated well based on a lie. He acquired all types of livestock and female and male servants. Now, I'm going to stop right there to say, what did he need with the female servants? I know in those times, they did help with certain things, but if Sarai was in the house with Pharaoh, what was he doing with female servants? Now, I'm going to leave that right there, okay? That says a lot about the way fear can drive our actions. Instead of staying put and trusting God, we go down, taking matters into our own hands. And that's what I mean when I say we go down. We start taking matters into our own hands, allowing fear to drive our decisions. We may settle for relationships we shouldn't be entertaining, working a job God never gave us the grace for, or we have to become someone that we're not just to survive. All right. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And then there was a few other things. Let me see here that I wanted to share with you. I got to flip my page here. Another thing that may happen once once God inflicted serious illness upon him, he sent Abraham packing. So that's another thing. We can inflict serious issues upon other people when we're disobedient, when we're not aligned with the will of God, because we're taking matters into our own hands. Just because we think there's a drought, then we kind of apply that pressure to other people. We put it upon them to kind of make room for us, so to speak, when God never told us to be in those places in the first place. And the thing is, like I said, we're causing hardship upon others when we're misplaced. So being in a place that God never told us to go could cause them to experience financial hardship. Had I gone back to my friend's house and then I'm not working, say if she didn't have enough work to give me to help her clean, now she's experiencing hardship in her household because I'm causing her bills to increase. Say if I had have gone back to the school, even though they may have needed my help with a few hours, yet and still that's taken away from other people in a sense, maybe hours that others could receive. Maybe this is a time that God has for them to receive a little bit of extra time, even though I don't think that's really the case, but I'm just giving you an example of where I'm coming from here. So, or even just on their budget in general, that could cause for some people maybe a little bit of mental anguish, even if we're in relationships that we shouldn't be in, when it comes to just romantic relationships, friendships and things like that. Had I have gone back, that could have caused issues with us because I've moved into her house if I had of, and then not being able to help in the way that I should as an adult, then that could have caused problems between us and our sisterhood, our friendship. So I just wanted to say that to you guys today, just to be mindful of that. Stay put wherever God has told you to be. Just stay in position, stay in alignment, because it wasn't until Abram went back up to Egypt that's when things settled out for him. It says here that when he went back up, who was moving about, well, Lot was moving about with him. But when he went from place to place, between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, where he had first built an altar, that's where Abram called on the name of the Lord. And sometimes that's what God wants us to do. Not sometimes, but all the time. Go back to wherever he told you to go when he originally called you, and where he told you to stay put in that place. Because here's what he revealed to me. Right now, time is the assignment. So what I want to say to you is this: when time is the assignment, stay put in the place of his protection, his provision, and his safety. Okay. So I hope that made sense to some of you, or whoever's listening, whoever needed this word. Just because God called you out of a thing, out of a relationship, out of a job, out of a particular place, if he told you to go, then he's going to take care of you. Sometimes time is the assignment, and he wants you to wait well. So don't pack up and go running. Don't start, as my ex-husband says, don't start hustling backwards because you think there's going to be a drought or a famine. God never told you that. Just sit still. If God didn't tell you that, you stay exactly where you are, because where you are is where your protection lies. Like I just said, okay? Your protection, your provision, your safety, it's where you need to be. So just stay put, all right? Wait well. I'll talk to you later.